we're out playing on this pool patio, and it's 30 degrees in the dark. Everybody in the wedding party is just pretty smashed at this point, and we're playing red right hand, and nobody even notices because they're hammered out of their minds. But actually, we're going to be in Europe on at the end of August and the first week of September.
Oh, really? That's rad.
Yeah,
whereabouts?
our home base is in Belgium. Whenever we go there, in a little town called Dinan.
Oh, cool.
And we've gotten to be friends with. I don't know if you know a guy named Michel Brasseur. He used to have a band there called what the hell was his band? Smooth and the Bully Boys, and he does like a blues. He does like a blues thing, and we've gotten to know him pretty good over the years. And what we've done is every time we go, we buy gear and leave it at his house. So and now we got all the gear we need, and he just keeps it for us. And we'll fly into Brussels and get our van and go by his house and pick up our gear, and then we hit the road.
That's pretty fucking great, dude. Like, I'm glad that you're getting a chance to come back over here. It's kind of tricky getting from America to Europe these days with just how horrible flights can be. Like, everything can be so unreliable.
Yeah, and it's miserable for a guy like me. I'm 6'3" and 225 pounds, man. It is rough. So I usually go to my doctor and get him to give me some Valium to put. I'm like, you gotta not give me something to knock my ass out for about 8 hours because I can't handle it.
So you got that gig coming up on Friday, is it?
Yeah, what the deal is, we just got a new booking guy, and he really has a lot of faith in us, and so much so that this particular show, Walt kind of had to reel him in a little bit because he got us a really good guarantee, and it was actually a little bit more than what we may be worth. I don't know, so. The pre-sales didn't do anything, and the venue started getting a little shaky about it. So we're really pushing it hard so we can prove our worth, So we're basically at the point of just begging, like, please come to this show because if we don't get people in there, it's going to be our first and last show at this particular venue, and it's a really, really nice venue. So yeah, we're pulling out every stop and favor owed and everything that we can think of to get people there. I've offered to wash people's cars and do their laundry and walk their dogs and everything else. Like, get your ass to this show. Just, I don't care. Whatever I have to do to get you there, just make it happen,
Yeah, it's always cool to just hand out flyers near the venue to people that are just walking around too. Be like, just hit the streets.
Yeah, that reminds me that back in the 90s when we used to go to it was this place called Little 5 Points, which was kind of the epicenter of the punk rock crowd, and staple flyers. We used to staple flyers onto telephone poles everywhere.
Yeah, that was the thing to do. Right, there was Star Bar and everything. Star Bar's still open?
Yeah, they're still there. They had a close call where a developer came in and was going to scoop it up and tear it down, and they met a lot of opposition, and they claimed that some kind of thing that, like, some financial issue where they couldn't, but it could have been because they had so much opposition. But whatever the reason, they ended up not buying it. And we've actually had a couple of shows there since they did close temporarily. And after they reopened, we've had about three or four shows there. So the Star Bar was saved for now, at least anyway.
Was it just because there was just such a public uproar about it?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't admit that, but that's kind of the feeling on the street that had a lot to do with it. But they, bowed out gracefully and gave their reason why, which nobody knows, if they were being honest about that. But the main point is that the Star Bar is still standing, so that's the main thing.
So aside from like the Psycho DeVilles, which you've been playing with for how many years now?
It'll be 12 years now, I think. If let's see, yeah, 12 years this year in July, actually, I think.
Which is, I mean, just a rad, fun band, I'm sure, to be in. And the other band that you're in, I don't know so much about that.
It's a new project. It's called the Fenton Sparrow Band, and it's what it is. It's kind of a 1920s inspired theme, and we kind of dress the part, and we do blues and dark Americana, and we've actually hired a new lead guitar player named Dave Olson, and Dave is a fantastic musician, and he's a hell of a great lead guitar player, and he's a super nice guy. And we started out using him. Walt started out actually using him for these like acoustic duo projects that he does. So he's basically got a menu that he hires himself out for. He either has the Hot Rod Walt solo show, which is just him and an acoustic guitar. He's got a duo show, which is him and Dave Olson. And he's got a trio, which is Walt, Dave, and myself. And then he's got the Psycho DeVille, which is the full band. And then he's got the Fenton Sparrow, which is the 1920s themed dark Americana. And so whenever he books his shows, they actually have a menu to choose from depending on the venue, what they're wanting, and how much money they're willing to spend. So he's a very Walt, he's a very multifaceted individual. So yeah, he's going to make sure that he has plenty of offerings out there so he can keep working, because he is a musician by trade. He has no other source of income. That's actually his job, and that's how he earns his living. So he puts it out there in many ways enough to keep him working steady. But yeah, the Fenton Sparrow thing, it's starting to take off a little bit now. Our new booking guy is starting to push it, and actually our European tour this year is going to be the Fenton Sparrow project. So it'll be Walt and Dave and myself, and we also have a fiddle player in that group, but we're not sure if we're going to be able to take him to Europe or not because of budgeting issues. So that'll kind of we'll just have to wait and see if the fiddle player is going to be able to make it or not. But he's a trained musician as well, and he's very talented also. His name is Jeff Shaw, and he has a couple of Irish folk bands that he plays with. One called the Muckers, and St. Patty's Day coming up. This is his busy season, so I think actually he's going to be able to make it to our show at 37 Main Avondale on Friday. And then he goes into overtime with the Muckers doing the St. Patty's Day thing the rest of the weekend. So, but yeah, we're the Fenton Sparrow. During COVID, Walt wrote a whole album's worth of material for the Psycho DeVilles, and then it kind of spilled over into the Fenton Sparrow thing. So he got a couple of new blues songs that he's written, and we actually picked up a couple of cool covers to throw in, and one of which I was really excited about is Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds' Red Right Hand. So that's something that we're working on right now as well.
Yeah, that's a cool one, definitely.
A funny story about that is we actually learned it. We got hired to play a wedding, and it was, you know, we're whores, you know, if the money's right, we'll do it. So we got hired to play this wedding, which was it was a Peaky Blinders themed wedding. And the condition on us getting that gig was we had to learn to play that song. So we learned it, and we get to where the reception is going to be, and it's this guy's house, and they put us out by the pool at 10 o'clock at night, and there's no lights, and it just so happened it was during a cold snap, so it was 30 degrees, and we're out playing on this pool patio, and it's 30 degrees in the dark. Everybody in the wedding party is just pretty smashed at this point, and we're playing Red Right Hand, and nobody even notices because they're hammered out of their minds. But it was a great paying gig, so you know it was. We figured it was worth it just based on the fact that they paid us good. So you know.
Yeah, I totally know what you mean. Where like you're supposed to learn this one or two very specific songs that they request. So like you hold special band practices just to make sure that you nail those songs, and then you nail it and everything's good, and then you go and you play it at the wedding, and like everybody's like on the other side of the room.
Yeah, well, and that's something else. We don't rehearse. I can count on I can count on one hand how many times we've actually rehearsed, because what usually happens is he'll write new material, and he'll record it on an acoustic guitar and send Dave and me and Steve an email with the audio clip of the acoustic, and he'll just tell me what the chord progression is, and then we'll just learn it, and then when we're at the next gig, we'll wait till the 11th hour when everybody's either gone or drunk, and he calls it the drunk set, and he'll go, okay, well, we got a new song we're going to try out on you, and here we go, and we'll just work it out, you know, on stage at whatever show we're playing. When everybody's hammered, half the people are gone and the other half are so drunk it don't matter. So that's actually how we rehearse.
That's I mean, that's pretty foolproof method.
Yeah. See, it's worked thus far. You know, the only time we really get together, Walt has a studio. He's actually got a really nice studio at his house, and he bought one of those portables like they have school in, you know, when they're overcrowded. And he bought one of those portables and had it moved in, and he turned it into a studio. So the only time we actually rehearse is literally the day before we go into the studio. If we're recording an album, we'll go and run over everything to make sure we got it down before we go in the studio. But that's it. That's the only time we actually rehearse.
When it came to rehearsal for anything that I played with, there was two kinds of rehearsal. There was one kind where it was like, okay, we know we do this every week, and you know, I'm gonna make some dinner, and you know, we'll have cocktails and eat and have a jam. You know, we got the set list and that kind of thing. And then there's the rehearsals where you was talking about where you specifically have to learn something for a gig, and it's not like it just doesn't feel like the rest of everything else. It's like, oh fuck, we're actually here and we have to like learn this other song that we particularly don't ever play, but we have to play just for this occasion. Fuck, let's do this. Come on, let's do it. And it's like ripping off a Band-Aid.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And the way we do covers is kind of strange because, you know, Walt and myself we aren't what we refer to as learned musicians. You know, we just figured it out, you know, and so the music theory thing is something new to us. And I'm actually taking some lessons from Ronnie Crutcher, he's proved to be very valuable in the progression of my music. And he's got the ability to teach me music theory where I can actually understand it. So, but when normally when we do a cover song, we just kind of do it our way. and it just, you know, and I'll tell Walt, you know, I was like, hey, I learned this song, you know, I learned it, you know, I watched this YouTube video or whatever and learned whatever song, you know, and he goes, well, I I said, I learned to play it the right way. And he goes, well, I don't play it the right way. I play it my way. So somewhere we meet in the middle, and it just kind of works out. Like for Fenton Sparrow, we do 16 tons, and he learned it, and I learned it, and then we just got together and put it together, and then what we came up with is, it's something along the lines of the proper way and then his way, and we just kind of meet in the middle and make it happen. So yeah, even covers is different.
Well, what's really cool when it comes to doing covers, especially of older stuff, is everybody does kind of have their own version of it, whether it's the original or a cover, and how you decide that you learned it, and then you both play it together. That's always interesting because it blends the styles, and that's really where your personality comes out in the music. Just because you're like, oh, I'm coming from this part and the other person coming from this part, and it's all still over the same song. And I don't know, that's really cool. That's where a band starts to get, in my opinion, sort of like Neapolitan like gumbo thing that happens when just people play together, because everybody brings something different to the table. When you can find people,
right? Yeah.
When you can find people that you can do that with, and they don't piss you off when you're doing it, you got something good.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's, and don't get me wrong, I got nothing against cover bands per se, because apparently that's where the money's at right now. The tribute bands and the cover bands down here, and I don't know about in other regions, but our area, those cats are man, they're paying them top dollar, and they're booking them like crazy. And and a true cover band or a true tribute band, they learn the music just as it was written. But people like us, we do all original music, so when we do a cover, it's a little bit of our own essence that we put into it. So it is a cover, but we do kind of make it our own in some ways. And the biggest reason, we basically have two reasons for doing covers. One is we just like it, and two is occasionally you get a crowd, especially in our area, where you play enough original music, you start losing the crowd. And Walt's got a really good sense of reading the crowd. In fact, we have never played with a set list. I've been with him for 12 years, and we have never used a set list. And he just reads the crowd, and he'll throw stuff out there that he knows is going to, play with the vibe of what's happening in the audience. And if he feels like we're starting to lose them, that's when we start throwing the covers in, and like we'll do Honky Tonk Man or Blue Suede Shoes or Stray Cat Strut, something that's familiar, and he'll pull them back in, and then he can start throwing our stuff back at him again. So he's Walt has one of the greatest abilities of reading a crowd of anyone I've ever seen. And Steve and I have been with him for so long, he can play the first note of any of the songs that we play, which probably has got to be about 100. I don't know. I had not even counted how many songs that we do, but we just know, we've been with him for so long. Or he'll have a shtick that he'll say before he plays the song, and we just know. And then he hits that first note, and boom, we're in it, So that kind of chemistry is, it really works in our favor, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, he it's unusual for him to lose a crowd. He'll get them back.
Yeah, you play together long enough, you get that where you're just so good and greasy, and you can just read everybody's mind. Like you said, either the spiel that comes before the song, or how the intro is gonna hit, and you instantly know what key. I find it tricky sometimes working with people that don't use a set list, because you're supposed to remember so much music at all times. But I suppose if you're playing with one or two bands it makes it a bit easier than like when you're playing with like 3 or 4.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and then we have our comfort zone, and our comfort zone, and he writes usually within it for the most part, and it's 145, and
Yeah.
it's E A and G, and that's E A G and B. As long that's our comfort zone, and I remember I don't like F. Me and Walt and we do not play in the key of F, and we went for a while. We were touring a lot with Little Leslie and the Bloodshots. Great band, great people.
Oh yeah, great band.
Those guys are amazing. And so we'd take turns. They would get up on stage with us, and we'd have Leslie up on bass or have Swifty up on guitar and trade out and whatnot. And so they had me up, and we played a tune or whatever. And Leslie's like, "Hey, sit in for one more." I go, "Okay." I forgot which one it is, which song it was. I said, "What key are we going to play in?" And she said F, and I did the thing like a blackjack dealer when you're out, clap the hands up and down, like,
Yeah.
"Nope, I'm out. I don't do F." So I had to sit that one out. Yeah. So that's definitely not in our comfort zone.
Well, it's pretty rad that you've been learning theory with Ronnie. First off, Ronnie's a wonderful human being. I love that dude.
He's the absolute best. I love that guy.
When you get to the point where you can just relate everything to 7 notes at all times, then all the mystery goes away. So
yeah, it's like putting together it's like putting together a piece of furniture from IKEA, and all of the long that you've been trying to put it together, with no instructions. And all of a sudden somebody goes, "Hey, here's the instructions. Now put it together," So it's kind of been like that for me.
Yeah, man. Like, it's for me, it was essential to learn it when I went down to Austin because I wanted to eat.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, when you do Nashville or Austin on the music strip, you got to know your crap, buddy. I mean, because they'll drop you quick if you can't hang in there.
There's always somebody behind you wanting to eat. That's the deal.
Yeah, it is.
Dude, how long have you been playing upright bass? Like, what made you pick it up?
Well, it kind of goes back to when I was 9 years old. My dad, both my parents were really into music. My dad was really into bluegrass, and he was not musically inclined at all, but bless his heart, he really did try. But he had no sense of rhythm. My mom always thought it was funny. He wanted so much to play the dobro. But we were sitting at the dinner table one day when I was a kid, and he looks at me. He called me Taterbug. He said, "Taterbug, if you could play any instrument, what would you want to play?" Well, I had remembered a few years before that, we went to a music festival, and I saw this bluegrass band, and I was just absolutely entranced by this banjo player. So I told him, I said, "I want to play the banjo." So he bought me a banjo, and I played on it till I was about 13. And then at that age, I was more interested in girls and video games and camping and hunting and fishing. So I gave up music until the early 90s, and ended up being roommates with this guy that was in a hair metal band, and ended up being their roadie. And he taught me to play the electric bass. And when I went to Lollapalooza, that changed me forever, because I said, that's the kind of music I want to play. So the next couple of years, I was in and out of a couple of different alternative bands. And then I married my first wife, and that killed it. So I didn't pick up an instrument again until it was 2000. No, I take that back. It was 97. A buddy of mine had came back from the Army, and he was like all into this rockabilly thing. And I had no damn idea what the hell rockabilly was. And the Star Bar had their first annual Rockabilly Rumble. So he made me go. And the headliners that night, it was the Frantic Flat Tops.
Oh, cool.
And I watched, and the guy named Sid back then was their bass player. It was before they got chops. And I watched this guy play the upright bass, and I could feel it in my chest. And then I knew that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. So I eventually bought one, and just kind of, I would set it in the I set it in the corner of the living room, basically, and every time I walked by, I would just kind of pluck on it, pluck here and there, you know.
Yeah.
And the internet was kind of in its early stages, and I found a website that had bass tabs, and I thought to myself, all right, if I could just learn to play Rock Around the Clock and Stray Cat Strut, I think I can do this. And it took weeks. I don't even know how many weeks. But I finally learned to play Rock Around the Clock, and that kind of set me on the path. And at some point, I kept hearing about this band called the Psycho DeVilles, and it was local to me. I didn't even know they existed. And I started going to every show they had. I mean, every single show. And one show Walt had, it was at Southside Steve's. He was a local DJ. He was a morning show personality, and he had opened up a restaurant in Henry County pretty close to where I live. And I was at the show that night, and I, kind of started getting to be friends with Walt, and told him that I played a little bit of upright, played some bluegrass, and played a little bit of rockabilly. And his bass player at the time had to go to the bathroom, so he had me up. And I played one song. It was Blue Flame, and it was basically just, root 5 and C and G.
Mm-hmm.
And I hung in there for that. And then I got a taste of it, and I didn't want to get off stage. Like, please let me do one more. Please let me do one more. So he said, well, what can you play? I said, I can play Rock Around the Clock. And he goes, well, I don't know that, but we'll do Chop Down, Hopped Up because it's in the same key. So I just played Rock Around the Clock to Chop Down, Hopped Up, and that was it, man. Yeah, so about a year later, an opportunity came up where he needed a bass player, and he was like, well, you ready to do it full time? I said, hell yeah, man, I'm your guy. So I've been with him for 12 years ever since.
That's rad. And I mean, it's given you the opportunity to go international.
Yeah. I mean, you were in the Navy, I was in the Navy, but I never left the United States. And I've gotten to do and see things that I never would have dreamed. I mean, it's been incredible. And the funny thing is, I remember my earlier shows in an alternative band. I would be so damn nervous. I remember the first show I played, and it was kind of a funny situation because it kind of spoiled me in a way and disillusioned me at the same time. It was an alternative band called The Undecided, and we played for a real prominent attorney's daughter's 16th birthday, and he was part owner of this huge old theater. So my first gig was in a theater to 300 people, and I thought that was the norm. I thought, oh, cool. Every show's going to have 300 people. And the next show we played with a touring band called Meat Locker, and it was us, Meat Locker, and one of their girlfriends, and that was it. And dude, I was crushed. I was absolutely devastated. I'm like, this ain't cool, man. We're supposed to have like 300 people here, So I had to learn that you have to play a lot of shows to nobody before you start playing to bigger crowds, because the first one, it kind of threw me off because I had no idea that you do a lot of gigs when you play to nobody. But I would be so nervous. And the weird thing with the first time I played with Walt, from then till this day, I have never been nervous ever, because he exudes this confidence that is contagious. And I knew when I got on stage with Walt, everything was going to be okay. There's no reason to be nervous. And I have no show I've ever played with that man have I ever been nervous. And I always thought that was kind of interesting, because he just has this confidence that is super contagious.
Well, it's like, as long as you know the parts to the songs, there's no reason to ever worry about your own ability.
Right. Yeah. And, and I'm super hard on myself sometimes, but that in a way is a good thing. We played a show about 3 weeks ago, and man, I thought I played like crap, and so all that did was it really drove me to work harder, because I don't like to practice at home, but ever since then I've stuck to a pretty rigorous practice schedule at home. So practice about 1.5 hours a day every day during the week, and I'd make myself do like 30 minutes of major scales to a metronome to start with. That's how I start every day. 30 minutes of major scales to a metronome. And brother, you I thought I was an okay player until I started that, and then I realized, man, I suck. I mean, I really suck. But it was good, that a failure to all a failure does to me is it drives me to work harder.
Because like I think not only it makes sure that your intonation and your timing is that much better as well when you're definitely practicing just a certain scale to a metronome. I do the same with arpeggios. Like I'd run through like All of Me or like a swing tune and arpeggiate through the chord changes the whole time, and then to a metronome, and whoo, that was like boot camp.
Yeah, you learn a lot about yourself when you do that, and you realize, wow, I'm not really as good as I thought I was. But it's been a great trip, and it's it's done a lot for me, and I'm working on writing a book. I got a good start on it. I think I got about 20,000 words, and it started out where any time we get in a van and hit the road, there's not much to do while the miles are laboriously going by, and you start, hey, you remember that time when? And we did so much of that I told Wallace, man, I need to write these stories down, because you on the road long enough, you got anybody, I don't care if you're a stadium band or just a honky tonk band, but if you spend enough time on the road, you're going to have some cool ass stories. And I told Wallace, like, man, I need to write these down. So I started writing them down, and then I started thinking about how I started and where I came from and the things I went through. I went through some really hard depression growing up, and became a bad alcoholic and almost died in 2017 when I had pancreatitis and was in the hospital, and then got pneumonia and nearly died, and had to quit drinking and working in a working band who was sponsored by Miller High Life, and being a non-drinker, how that like completely changes everything. And so yeah, man, I thought, the whole catch to my idea for my book is that, everybody knows the stories of, the big rock stars, Nikki Sixx and Dave Grohl. And I read Al Jorgensen's book, and I read, Duff McKagan's book, which that one is amazing. Duff McKagan became my hero after I read his book. But, everybody knows these people's stories, but who can relate to it because they're huge rock stars? And I started thinking, well, I'm a nobody, so maybe me being a nobody could make my story more relatable to other people that's just the average Joe on the street, So I thought, well, that might be something that could be useful, so I just went ahead and pulled the trigger and started writing. I've been on a couple of month hiatus from writing my book so I can learn how to play music again. So, but it's an ongoing process. But like we got to do stuff like we got to play for the troops at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, about 7 or 8 years ago, before Americans could even go into Cuba. And I thought, that's definitely worthy of writing down. That's a really cool story. And a lot of other stuff, just, those, hey, remember that time when we checked into a hotel and I got to bed and there was pubic hair and potato chips in my bed, crap like that. It's just stories from the road,
Yeah. Pretty sure that, well, there's a whole circle of people that you and I know that would be able to publish stuff like that, no problem. I just, some of the stories that I've heard, along with my own, just from from the road, and I don't know. There's about the road that it has all of the allure, but all of the Stockholm syndrome simultaneously.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
I love this.
Yeah, yeah. And it's weird, I talk to a lot of other guys and we share stories, and it's kind of a pattern. We'll go on tour. Both my kids are grown, and that's another thing that I found interesting about my life and how things worked out is I started doing this at a late age. I was 40. I think, yeah, I was 40 years old when I started playing professionally, but because my kids were practically grown then, they are grown now. So I thought, well, hell, now's a good time, But there's a pattern that you go through. Even though my kids are grown, my son still lives with us. He's 22, and then my wife and I, we've been married for 25 years. So, but we hit the road, and after about 3 days, man, I will get so homesick that it freaking hurts. And then you reach a certain point where you're just exhausted, and then you go on autopilot, and it's like your brain shuts down and your body takes over, and it just does whatever it has to do. And then that's the point where it's really fun because you're not even thinking anymore. You're just body's just working, and your brain is just in a coma, but the rest of you just does what it needs to do, and then that's when the fun starts. That's when you really start having fun.
If you think about it, we're both veterans of the Navy, and how many times in the Navy did you just do that? You're like, well, the suck must be accomplished.
Right. Yeah. Every 0200 to 0400 watch, you basically are in that type of condition.
Balls to 4, midnight to 4.
Yeah, midnight to 4. Yeah, that's the one. That's the really bad one.
Yeah, that was awful. We would call it balls to 4 because it was that bad.
Yeah.
The 2 zeros. I'm sure if you use your imagination, you can figure out why it was called that.
But yeah, I do love being on the road. I can't wait to get back out there. Yeah, COVID was a hard time, because we actually had a European tour booked for 2019, right when it started, and then it was like one by one. Every day I would get a text from Walt. He's like, "Well, our Luxembourg show got canceled. Well, our Belgium show got canceled. Well, our German shows in Germany got, every day it was another show. Then, he's like, that's it. We're done. We're not going."
Yeah.
And then that shit lasted for freaking 3 damn years almost, So that was kind of a tough time. That's when I decided I was going to start a side project of my own, and I'm still trying to get that one off the ground. But I just wanted to do something that I really, really love to do. Is the music that really changed me was the 90s alternative music. And I got together with a group of guys, and we were working on a 90s cover band, since the cover band thing is so big too, but we'll be doing stuff, like Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Stone Temple Pilots and that type of thing, all the 90s stuff. But right about the time I started trying to get that off the ground, that's when we got our new booking guy, and then I'm getting text messages from Walt every day. He's like, "All right, well, we got this show coming up. We got this show. This show." I'm going,
yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's cool, but I don't know what I'm gonna do with these other guys now, But I like the fact that I got so much work coming at me now that I don't know how to find the time to do it. That's it's a little stressful, but it's also the place that I've always wanted to be in, So I got what I wish for.
Yeah, man. I mean, feast or fam, and especially after COVID, I released that new record and had all kinds of things happening and things booked, and then COVID came, and it was like it never once got to be played live, and that was a damn shame. As far as when you found yourself, having to play less and less because of what was going on with COVID. like, what was there any extra like side hobbies or other, I suppose, talents or interests that you picked up?
Well, the first few weeks when we were under like really strict quarantine, when we couldn't even leave the house, I decided to. I played golf. This is weird. People look at me like, "Really, you like golf?" I have loved golf ever since I was a kid, but I was really terrible at it.
I
And
got it.
while we were under quarantine, I live way out in the country, and our driveway is 900 foot from the road to our house. We can't even see our closest neighbor's house. So I pulled out my golf bag and took an old sheet and hung it up over our pergola and started relearning how to play golf. And then I found a guy that has a online golf school named Tom Segudo, and he teaches out of Murrells Inlet, South Carolina, and started taking lessons online. And I actually got a pretty decent golf game now because of that. Like the first 3 or 4 weeks when I was being under quarantine, I just hit golf balls into a sheet hung over the pergola and took online golf lessons. And I actually was able to break 190 in the same year. And so I still, like, if we got an off weekend, which isn't very often now, but I'll go hit the golf course and play around. But yeah, that was what I did then. But even then we still played a little. Like, we went from doing about 100 to 125 shows a year down to, I think the first year was 75 and the second year was 50, and then the next year I think it was about 70-ish again. But and even then, nobody really was coming out much, and it just felt like there was a dark cloud hovering over everything, and there was just, it just didn't feel right. It was just like I said, it was like there was a dark cloud hanging over everything. And it wasn't until probably, I don't know, like 6 or 9 months ago when things started really brightening up again, and we started getting back to our old, our old numbers again. And lately, we'll have a great show, and after the show, we're looking at each other going, yeah, now this is what it used to be like. This is what I miss.
Yeah.
This is what it's supposed to be again. So it feels right now. It really feels good. We're in a really good place now, which I was afraid I'd never feel that feeling again.
That, and the crowds are so much more appreciative.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah, we had a show this past weekend in Covington, Georgia, and we had 2 other shows there that were just okay. And actually, we had the last time we played there, we had an issue. So I'm not going to say the name of the place because things have changed now. But the last time we played there was a problem with, there was a local booking agent or a local promoter. I think it was mostly a promoter, had a problem with Walt and really had it in for us, and basically lied to the club owner and said we were late, when in reality we were 3 hours early, because we have a 3-hour rule. And and just caused some trouble, and then the gig didn't go well, and the attendance was down, and we were loading out that night, and we're kind of like, yeah, we're never going to play this damn place again anyway. And we actually had our first gig back, and it's been over a year, and they're under new management, and we had a packed out house. Everybody loved it. The crowd dug it. The employees at the venue loved it, and the boss really loved it. So that's just kind of a sign of the way things are not only getting back to normal, but there actually seems like they're improving a little. Yeah, because it's a cool venue, but they're upstairs. They have no elevator, and you got a long ass down flight of stairs to truck all your gear up and down. And the money's got to be really good, and the crowd's got to be really good to make it worth it.
Yeah,
I was sitting in my chair all day Sunday after the show, unable to move, because my back was hurting so damn bad. But I was thinking, yeah, but it was worth it.
Yeah,
it was worth it.
When you give them the large one, it's well worth it. When you hurt the next day, it's a litmus test for your body when it comes to playing rock and roll, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly.
That adrenaline really has the ability to knock away any pain. It's just when you get done and it comes back, it reminds you that you're not as young as you used to be.
Right. Yeah. And I have actually, and I was, I think it was 2008. I've always had back problems, but I thought it was just, I just did too much and didn't lift right or whatever, and it started out with it was weird because it started out where I had an appointment with an ophthalmologist because I knew I was getting to the point where I needed glasses, and he did his eye exam. And he goes, man, the pressure inside your eyeballs is really low. Usually that's a good indication of autoimmune disease. He said, I want you to go to your doctor and get him to do some blood work and see if something's going on. And not long after that, I did, and I was diagnosed with ankylosing spondylitis, which most people have never heard of. But now, because of Mick Mars of Motley Crue, he kind of put that disease a little bit more out in the public. But I got the same thing that he has, so I have a lot of back problems. But I try to eat right, and since I quit drinking, it got better. And I try to stay active, but there's some days, man, Sunday morning after a show, man, I can't even freaking move. But I'm just determined I'm not going to let that get in my way, because this is too good of a ride, man. I'm not getting off this bus anytime soon. I can't see myself not doing this anymore. So, I just deal with it the best I can, and hopefully I can keep it at bay for as long as I can.
Yeah, I deal with the same shit. Heating pad and reefer is pretty much the only thing.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Theraguns are nice. That percussion therapy sure does help things. I suppose that, if this is the time where if you got any plugs, any websites, any addresses you want to put out there, now's the time, man.
Well, of course, you can check out all our stuff at psychodevilles.com, and the show that I'm currently promoting right now is for anyone in the Atlanta area or anyone outside the Atlanta area that don't mind traveling. Is going to be at 37 Main Avondale, and you can go on their website to buy tickets. Doors open at 7, all ages, and opening band 7:45, and we go on at 8:45. 37 Main Avondale is the website, and just click on upcoming shows, and it'll send you to a link to purchase tickets. I guess that's the websites right there.
Rock and roll, man. It's been so great talking to you. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, you too, man. Yeah, it's good to catch up with you. It's been a minute. I think the last time I actually got to see you in person is what was it, Nashville Boogie, about 6 or 7 years ago, maybe 5, 6 years ago.
Yeah, I was hitting the road pretty hard there till COVID, and then I did the COVID thing, and then I'm married and in Germany now.
Oh wow, okay. Yeah, and Tamara Nikolai, I see her pretty regularly, and whenever it comes to story time, she'll always bring up, it's like, yeah, you sent me Skip Frontz to spend a couple of nights with me, and didn't even know who he was, and she says, and I asked you, he's not a serial killer, is he? And I said, well, no, I only know him from Facebook, but he's a really cool guy on Facebook, so I don't think he's an axe murderer or anything.
I guess I just give off a vibe. What can I say?
Yeah, she still talks about the weekend that you stayed with him while you were coming through town.
Oh, that was a party. Danny B. Harvey came over and hung up for a while too.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in a while. Anyway.
All right, brother. Well, like I said, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. And yeah, stay safe out there, and we'll try to get as many people to this gig as we can.
All right, great, man. I appreciate the opportunity, and keep in touch. Keep in touch, and I'll let you know when we're headed to Europe, and maybe we'll be somewhere close by. But actually, that's the cool thing about Europe. You can go to a completely different country, and probably only about a 6 or 8 hour drive, and you can be in an entirely different country.
Well, we can talk turkey off air and see what we can make happen as far as extra shows around this way goes.
Sounds great, man. You got it.
Take care, Buford. Thanks so much, man.
All right. You too, Skip. Thanks, man.
See you, buddy. All right. That'll be all for today. Remember, peace, love throughout the world, and don't forget to rock and roll.